Tonight, an armed assist, Canada's upgraded military pledge in the fight against Putin's war. Two prime ministers and a plan to fortify Ukrainian forces.
We'll be sending even more weapons.
Ahead of a new phase in the fighting.
We are preparing for our counteroffensive.
Police body cam footage of a gunman bent on mass murder in Louisville.
I don't know where he's at. The glass is blocking him.
And the illegal guns destined for Canada, disguised as Christmas gifts.
A seizure of this size is definitely going to save lives.
Plus excitement right off the bat. Covering all the bases of the Jays home opener.
Amazing so far. This is phenomenal.
Jumps! And he's got it!
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Heather Wright.
Good evening. With a spring offensive looming and supplies diminishing, Ukraine is pushing its allies for more aid. Today, its prime minister met with Justin Trudeau, who announced a new range of military assistance, as well as more sanctions against Russian officials. The new aid package is worth about $59 million and will include assault rifles, machine guns, and millions of rounds of ammunition. And while Prime Minister Dennis Schmiel thanked Canada for its ongoing support, he underscored the need for more. CTV's Adrian Gabriel starts us off.
A critical handshake between two leaders as the Russian invasion of Ukraine hits a crucial pressure point.
Fighting for the values and the principles that underpin all of our democracies.
With recently leaked documents claiming crushing Ukrainian casualties and a weakening military defense on the front lines, today's visit is timely, with Trudeau standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal.
We will continue to support Ukraine with everything needed for as long as necessary.
That pledge translating into an added influx of military aid, with the Canadian government announcing 21,000 assault rifles and 2.4 million rounds of ammunition headed for Ukraine. Additional sanctions are also being imposed on dozens of Russian citizens and entities, including security targets linked to the Wagner Group. With the war well into its second troubling year, Ukraine's prime minister delivering this desperate plea.
We are preparing for our counteroffensive. We need more ammunition, we need more weaponry, we need more military equipment.
For both countries right now, this is for all the marbles. For Ukraine to expel the Russians and for the Russians to try to defend what they already have.
Information and cyber warfare also top of mind. Just before today's press conference, the websites for the Prime Minister's office and the Senate crashed, with a pro-Russian hacking group claiming responsibility.
Russia being able to bring down an official Government of Canada webpage for a few hours is in no way going to dissuade us from our unshakable support of Ukraine.
Smiles and lighthearted answers aside, Canada's financial commitment to Ukraine now sits at $8 billion, with military veterans predicting the worst days of the war are still to come.
Ukraine's prime minister calling his negotiations today with Trudeau for more military aid fruitful as his country plans a spring offensive. Heather?
All right, Adrian Gabriel in Toronto. The Prime Minister also faced questions about an organization in honor of his late father. The CEO and voluntary board of directors stepped down today after returning a $140,000 donation from a Chinese billionaire with ties to Beijing. CTV's Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier explains.
Nestled on the 6th floor of this downtown Montreal building, the office of the Pierre Trudeau Foundation was practically empty today, hours after the CEO and the entire board of directors resigned.
On peut pas vous demander une question?
And the one person seen behind the glass wall would not let the CTV News cruise in. In recent weeks, the foundation said in a statement, the political climate surrounding a donation received by the foundation in 2016 has put a great deal of pressure on the foundation's management and volunteer board of directors, as well as our staff and our community. A donation that became political fodder for the Conservatives.
The communist dictatorship in Beijing has been helping the Prime Minister. They gave $200,000 in donations to the Trudeau Foundation. They interfered in 2 successive elections to help the Liberals win.
The leader of the opposition linking that donation to the Trudeau Foundation to alleged Chinese interference in Canada's 2019 and 2021 elections as the issue continues to plague the Trudeau government.
It is a shame to see the level of toxicity and political polarization that is going on in our country these days.
The Globe and Mail first reported in February that the foundation had accepted the donation 7 years ago from a Chinese businessman with alleged ties to the Chinese government. The foundation has since refunded the donation.
Chances are the CEO and the board of directors decided there was no way for them to kind of get out of this mess and right the course on it, so they decided we'll walk. And then maybe with a new board and a new team, the organization can then put a new foot forward.
The Trudeau Foundation is an independent, nonpartisan scholarship organization created in 2002 with the support of all parties in the House of Commons and with $125 million from Canadian taxpayers. Heather?
Thanks for this, Joyce. 2 Ontario women are back in their family homes tonight after spending years detained at open-air prisons in Syria. The pair were arrested and jailed when they returned to Canada last week, but today a judge ordered them to be released on bail. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
In an Ontario courtroom, the families of 2 women posted $55,000 in bonds. 33-year-old Jure Ahmed and 29-year-old Amara Amjad were granted bail, but are far from free.
She's looking forward to reconnecting with her family and her children. She's happy to be home. As you can imagine, she's been through quite an ordeal.
For more than 4 years, the 2 mothers were detained in camps that held wives and widows of suspected ISIS fighters. They are among a group of 14 Canadians flown out of the region last week, but were arrested when they touched down in Montreal. They'll now live with their parents under house arrest. They'll have to wear GPS ankle bracelets. They're banned from using cell phones and social media and can't use computers unless supervised. They can't drive and must attend de-radicalization counseling.
We don't force people to change their beliefs because you simply can't do that.
Mike King runs a program in Alberta that helps extremists reintegrate into society. He says the process will be hard.
You can have conflict with family members. Family members can even choose to cut off all ties with you. Same with friendships. The police, security services might be visiting you very often.
Ahmed and Amjad spent the past 5 days in jail and could find themselves back behind bars if they break the rules. Now the Crown wants to impose even stricter conditions with a terrorism peace bond.
Since 2021, the Canadian government has repatriated 7 women and their children from Syria. 1 Quebec woman was charged with terrorism offenses, while prosecutors pursued peace bonds in 5 other cases. Heather.
Judy Trin in Ottawa tonight. Thanks, Judy. We're learning more about what happened in Louisville, Kentucky, when a shooter killed 5 of his co-workers. Today, police released Bodycam video, and what unfolded is distressing and disturbing. CTV's Richard Madden with more.
Stop. Stop right here. Back up, back up, back up, back up.
New Bodycam video captures the tension as police rush to the scene of an active shooter at Louisville's Old National Bank. Rookie officer Nicholas Wilt is just 10 days into the job, and partner and trainer officer Corey Galloway are first on the scene.
From the east side.
Galloway takes the lead as the pair try to confront the gunman. Wilt is shot in the head. Galloway is also hit and falls back. A bystander across the street records him remarkably getting back up and re-engaging.
Damn it!
Within moments, backup arrives. Galloway eventually shoots and kills former bank employee Connor Sturgeon, armed with an AR-15.
I think I got him down. I think he's down.
They stopped the threat, so other lives could be saved.
Wilt is recovering from brain surgery. The shooter killed 5 former colleagues in America's latest mass shooting, becoming all too familiar.
Last year, I survived a workplace shooting. And now yesterday, I've lost a very close friend in another workplace shooting.
Doctors are also struggling.
There's only so many times you can walk into a room and tell someone they're not coming home tomorrow.
Investigators confirm the suspect bought his gun legally a week earlier and left an ominous warning the day of the attack.
We know he texted or called at least one person to let them know he was suicidal and contemplating harm. But we don't have the tools on the books to deal with someone who is an imminent danger to themselves or to others.
According to a new study, 1 in 5 Americans say they've had a family member killed by a gun. Calls are growing louder for tougher federal gun laws, but many are pessimistic if Congress will act. Heather.
Richard Madden in Washington tonight. A large fire at an Indiana recycling facility has forced about 2,000 people from their homes. Authorities in Richmond ordered the evacuation of a half-mile radius after massive clouds of black smoke filled the air. The large-scale fire occurred at a former factory which was being used to store plastics and other recycling materials. No injuries were reported. Flames and thick clouds of black smoke were also visible throughout Calgary today after industrial fire broke out at an auto recycling plant. Witnesses say a tent structure caught fire with tires, batteries, oil, and gas inside. No one was hurt. A joint operation by Canadian and U.S. authorities has led to a huge cross-border bust of illegal guns bound for Canada. In the year-long investigation dubbed Project Moneypenny, police nabbed more than 170 firearms, arrested 42 people, and laid more than 400 criminal charges. The sophisticated smuggling scheme underscores the challenges of controlling the flow of firearms into this country. CTV's Kevin Gallagher reports.
A seizure of this size is definitely going to save lives.
The cross-border investigation busted a massive gun smuggling ring, with some firearms disguised as holiday gifts in an attempt to foil border guards.
It is important to note that one firearm can be used in multiple crimes, multiple times, so even a single seizure can have a ripple effect.
The majority of the firearms seized originated from the U.S., destined for Canada's black market.
These firearms are sold for 300%, 400%, 500% markup, so there's a demand for them, and they're sold to different individuals, different organized crime groups.
Dubbed Project Moneypenny, police seized 86 guns in the Greater Toronto area. 87 more were intercepted in Chicago. The joint law enforcement effort also recovered more than 1,400 rounds of ammunition, 45 overcapacity magazines, and more than $670,000 in fentanyl, carfentanil, cocaine, and cash.
This builds on the progress that we have made in the last number of years where, again, year after year, we're seeing law enforcement both at the border as well as in our communities seize a record number of illegal guns.
Over the past decade, illegal weapons from the U.S. have helped fuel an increase of gun and gang violence in Canada, though it's not clear how much of a dent this crackdown has made.
We don't really know how many guns are coming across that huge unprotected border from coast to coast in any 24-hour period. I think it's probably small potatoes in the big scheme of things.
Of the 42 charged, 3 were under the age of 18, Heather. All the accused are expected back in court Friday.
All right, Kevin, thanks for this. Police believe there may be more victims in a case that has left a rural community in southern Alberta reeling after a local man was arrested and accused of targeting and terrorizing sex workers. CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief Bill Fortier has the latest from Calgary.
Just one day after Calgary police announced allegations of heinous crimes against sex trade workers, the city's police chief is now calling on any other victims to come forward. Large police teams moved in on this property near Chestermere, Alberta, Thursday. The intensive search lasted until yesterday afternoon. Officers arrested 59-year-old Richard Mantha and laid 13 charges. It's alleged he picked up at least 3 sex trade workers in Calgary over a 15-month period, abducted them, took them back to this building he was renting on the rural property, then assaulted and sexually assaulted them. Police say at least 2 of them were drugged.
The possibility is definitely there that there could be more victims, and if so, we definitely would like to hear from those folks now. That's really, really important.
Experts say the problem of violence against people in the sex trade is much bigger than most people realize.
I would say the sexual violence is definitely on the rise. I would say as far as these assaults, they're grossly unreported.
The search warrants used by police on the rural property have been sealed by the courts, so details on what they were looking for are unavailable. Richard Mantha is scheduled to appear in court tomorrow. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Calgary.
Time for a short break, but when we come back,
we're just all running on empty emotionally, physically.
A dire prognosis as thousands of British doctors walk off the job. Plus, a volcanic eruption, a blanket of ash, and a moment of levity. The UK is preparing for massive disruptions at hospitals after thousands of doctors walked off the job today. These junior doctors, who form nearly half the medical workforce, are on a 4-day strike demanding a 35% pay hike, which the government calls an unreasonable ask. More than 300,000 operations and appointments may be canceled because of the protests. Joe Biden is in Northern Ireland tonight, a trip that's part diplomacy and part homecoming for the Irish Catholic president. Biden arrived in Belfast, where he was greeted by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. His visit marks the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, a peace deal that helped end 30 years of violent conflict in Northern Ireland. But it comes at a time of renewed strife. The terrorism threat level was recently raised from substantial to severe due to a rise in activity by dissident groups. Biden will later travel to Ireland, stopping in the county where his great-great-grandfather grew up. One of Russia's most active volcanoes erupted today. An enormous cloud of ash shot up 20 kilometers into the sky and then blanketed villages nearby with thick volcanic dust. The ash drifts prompting this Russian scientist to find a moment of joy. An emergency aviation warning was issued. There were no immediate reports of any casualties. After the break, diving into uncharted waters, getting up close with great white sharks for the research and the revenue. A unique initiative where underwater adventure meets in-depth research is coming to Canada's East Coast and bringing with it safety concerns. Here's CTV's Kristen Ashkate.
For just under $400, tourists brave enough could see a great white shark up close like this off Nova Scotia's southwest coast this summer.
To my knowledge, this is the first of its kind in Atlantic Canada.
Marine biologist Neil Hammerschlag has studied sharks for more than 2 decades in South Africa and the Bahamas.
We're going to be bringing people with us to encounter these sharks and, in fact, cage dive with these great white sharks and help us with our science.
While providing people with a close encounter, great whites will also be tagged and tracked to research why they are traveling to Nova Scotia more often.
There's been no consultation with anybody, else that uses the water.
However, the idea doesn't sit well with longtime surfer Walter Flower. He is concerned for those who also swim and surf in the Brooklyn and Liverpool area where the expedition will take place.
To have someone, create a feeding area, or that's, I don't know. Don't think that's going to go over too well with anybody.
Hammerschlag and his team insist that they are not feeding the sharks, and what they are doing is safe because their operation will be almost 5 kilometers offshore, away from any surfers.
They've been here forever. It's just nobody ever knew about them. But, we're seeing more and more of them now.
This shark researcher says the chances of being attacked by a great white here is very low.
There really isn't a shark risk. You're not swimming at dawn and dusk, which are the peak hunting times. You're out in groups and people in beaches.
While great white shark tours is unique here, it is common in other parts of the world, in South Africa and Australia, with the tourism dollars in the tens of millions. Kristen Ashkate, CTV News, Halifax.
Health concerns have forced Gordon Lightfoot to cancel all of his upcoming concerts. A representative for the 84-year-old says Lightfoot is experiencing some health issues but didn't give specifics. The folk music pioneer was set to play more than a dozen shows this year across North America, but will now focus on his recovery. And tonight, Canada's biggest film and television awards celebrated the best in news and documentary. CTV took home some hardware, including W5 for Best News or Information segment, Avery Haynes for Best Host or Interviewer, Mark Damour won for Best Photography for Reporter's Notebook with Paul Workman in Afghanistan, and former chief news anchor and senior editor of CTV National News, Lisa Laflamme, received the Gordon Sinclair Award for Broadcast Journalism. Still to come, home sweet dome. The Blue Jays are back on Toronto turf. We leave you tonight with the Toronto Blue Jays playing in front of their fans for the first time this season.
About a half a dozen new areas as Kerry Carpenter hits one to center field. Backpedaling Kiermaier jumps, and he's got it!
What a sensational catch to start the game, and a fresh facelift to the ballpark also catching the attention of fans. Here's CTV's John Venevali-Rao.
Ahead of the sold-out home opener, a ceremony and celebration, including a huge reminder the Blue Jays are Canada's team. The players and fans taking in the moment and getting a look at the stadium's new look after an off-season overhaul.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it gives us a whole different environment in which to watch the game.
Over the winter, the outfield was revamped, making room for a half a dozen new bars, patios, and restaurants, where fans can enjoy much more than peanuts and Cracker Jacks. The bullpen was also boosted up. Check out how close fans can get, which will no doubt lead to more heckling of the visiting team's pitching staff, with a bar right above their bullpen. So what does Canadian reliever Jordan Romano think?
Definitely pretty cool. Probably get pretty rowdy up there, so it'll be good for us.
And fans in the outfield are now right up against the wall, giving more chances to catch a ball.
It's going to be a pretty hectic environment. I didn't used to bring a baseball mitt before, but I think this is the year I'm going to start bringing one.
It's all about making the stadium feel more like a proper ballpark.
It looks pretty cool. It looks awesome.
As for hopes for how far the team will go this season, well, they're about as high as a Guerrero hope.
It's gone!
The Jays played their first 10 games of the season on the road, winning 6, including a wild extra innings contest on Sunday.
We've been on the road for a little bit, so it's good to get home for sure.
Some fresh faces were added in the offseason, including center fielder Kevin Kiermaier.
I like our chances. We're going to pop some champagne later on in the year. We're going to have a lot of fun, but this is what you play for.
And the fans just thrilled, baseball's back. John Venevali-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
And that's it for us tonight. I'm Heather Wright. For Omar and all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Omar will be back tomorrow. Have a good night.